If you're like most of the guys I work with, you've probably told yourself stuff like, I'm a failure, I'm broken, this always happens. But here's the thing, those exact phrases might be part of what's keeping your ED stuck. This video shows you how your language can dial your anxiety up or down, and how small shifts in your self-talk can help your system stay calm and make better erections more likely. Maybe you're talking to someone else, maybe you're talking to yourself. Either way, think of the words you use as being like a volume knob for your nervous system. High-intensity, extreme words like devastated, broken, catastrophe crank your nervous system up into threat mode energy. And you know what happens to erections when your body goes into fight or flight mode. Low-intensity or moderate words like sometimes, in progress, challenging, turn the volume down, calming your system, letting it stay in rest and digest mode. And absolute words like always and never, like I'll always have this problem or I'll never get better, they lock the knob at that max negative volume and usually create a trapped feeling as well. Not great for erections. With ED, I know this might sound way too simple, but hear me out. A psychologist named Allison Brooks ran a study on 3 groups who were about to do something stressful, public speaking. Heart pounding, palms sweating, racing thoughts, the usual performance anxiety stuff, everybody had it. But she had each group do one thing different. Right before speaking, people in the first 2 groups said either, I'm anxious, or nothing at all. After they spoke, they experienced about what they expected in terms of the continued discomfort and nervousness. People in the 3rd group were told to say something different. They were told to say, I'm excited. Not, I'm a great speaker, not, this is going to be great. Just, I'm excited. And what happened was kind of amazing. The people who called their body sensations excitement said afterwards that they felt a lot more confident. And according to independent observers, they actually performed better. And instead of seeing the whole thing as a threat, they saw it as an opportunity. Same body signals, different label, better outcome. Okay, you might be saying, well, that was public speaking. I've got ED. But as someone who's helped a lot of people resolve both public speaking and ED issues, I've seen that the structure to each issue and the intensity of it can be really similar. So let's look at the research on how that works and why the language you use with yourself matters more than you might think. Because our choice of words, whether talking to ourselves or someone else, it actually affects our body and brains. Recent studies have shown things like emotional words are processed faster and more deeply than neutral ones. How we phrase things can shape our stress experience. Negative words, especially in arguments, can trigger stronger stress responses. How we use emotional words predicts our feelings of well-being. So bottom line, the words you habitually choose shape how you feel, how your body reacts, and how you perceive the moment, often beneath the level of conscious thought. I want to say this respectfully, but some guys can be a little dramatic, especially in the bedroom. One little thing goes wrong and suddenly they're devastated, they're broken, they're a failure. Now, that wouldn't be such a big deal except that they don't just think that story, they feel it. And when that's the story you're living in, your system doesn't stay calm, it gets desperate. And that stressed out feeling appears more and more like evidence that what's happening is somehow important or even more important, which makes the problem even harder to solve. I worked with a guy years ago who was stuck in that exact spiral, lots of viciously negative language. And honestly, those are some of the most intense sessions I've had in over 20 years of doing this work. He was so locked into the I'm broken narrative that I actually had to bring in a colleague. It took both of us to help him see that there were actually other ways of looking at things, ways that felt a lot better when he could finally start to see them. It wasn't easy, but when he finally shifted his language and some other pieces, he solved it. He was okay. Hey, quick pause, guys. Watching videos like this can definitely help you to solve your ED, But doing it this way, honestly, can take some time. So if you want to get this solved now, rather than later, I invite you to take the next step. Click the link down below to schedule a private consultation with me. You can tell me what's been happening, and I'll be upfront about whether I think I can help. If I can, you'll be getting back to reliable erections and peace of mind, ideally sooner rather than later. The other words that I see cause trouble are always and never, as in I always blow it sexually and I'll never get hard again. When you use those words, you're telling your body this isn't going to change. You're not framing your thoughts, you're probably setting off threat alarms in your nervous system that you're trapped. I worked with a client one time who had repeatedly used problems he'd had in the past as evidence that the negative future he was imagining was 100% certain. Then his body would freak out when he told himself that it was always going to be this way. His body wasn't responding to the actual future. He wasn't psychic. But when he used always to tell himself the story that the problem would never be solved, he'd get a really intense feeling of being trapped. Always became a guarantee of failure that his body responded to as if the failure was actually happening. Not a great way to feel when he was headed into bed with his wife. So let's do a little exercise. Think of a recent moment where you weren't as hard as you would have liked to have been. Now, just as a test, label it failure or disaster or awkward, and notice how that feels in your body. Do you feel any extra tension, any extra tightness? Most guys do. Next, let's swap that extreme negative vocabulary, that extreme negative word, for something softer. A little hiccup, a rough night. Happens to everyone. A bumpy patch. Then check in with your body again. Same experience, different label. And if your body relaxes, even a little, it's not a placebo. That's your nervous system saying, yeah, this feels safer. That's your opening. And hey, you can even play with your words. It might sound silly, but a little humor can help short-circuit that stress loop. Try going from furious to a smidge cranky, or swap, oh my God, I'm not hard, to Junior isn't ready to play yet. Sometimes that tiny shift, if you get a little bit of a smile out of it's ridiculous, is all it takes for your system to reset. If that landed for you at all, try watching your language day to day, not just in the bedroom, and especially when things don't go well. If your go-to story is full of heavy words and you're throwing around a lot of always and never, you're turning the volume up. Try backing off the predictions. Swap in some lighter words. And notice what happens in your body when you consistently give it permission to settle. Even a small shift can change how you show up in the bedroom. Quick thing you might find to be helpful. All the work we're doing here is about a long-term solution. But I know sometimes you just need a reboot, an on-the-spot tool to break that cycle of anxiety. So I made the Pressure Release Reset. It's a free 20-minute guided hypnosis session designed to dissolve intense performance pressure so you can get out of your head and back into the moment. If you want to have this ready for the next time you need it, just click in the first link in the description down below. I'll send it to you right now, and it's completely free. If your body calmed down even a little during this video, that's not nothing. That's your system showing you it's listening. And that can be your signal just to be a little bit more aware of how you're talking. And if you want help in the moment when you're actually in bed and need a reset, you could watch this next video. It gives you some fast tools to calm your system just when you need them most. So thanks for watching. I hope this takes you one step closer to a really happy, healthy, fun sex life again. Thanks for watching.